Welcome to the Little Bit of Life podcast, where we talk about what we think but don't always say. Settle in, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's episode together. You're right where you need to be. Hey, everybody. Welcome in a Little Bit of Life podcast right here with your host, Little. We are all about educating and informing and advocating, especially on this podcast. And we have a topic today that is going to come with a trigger warning. It is very difficult to talk about, but it's also a conversation that definitely needs to be discussed. I have on a mother with me today. Her name is Melissa. It's good to see you. How are you?
Doing okay. How are you?
Doing well. Your video has gone viral and it was shared to me over on the TikTok platform so many times. Did you ever feel that this video would take off as it already has?
Not really, especially for the reason that it took off. I think that I just started making TikToks as a platform to kind of get the grief out. So I think when it comes to grief, I think it's important to find an outlet. And so I think when I was really in the thick of my depression, I was trying to find different things. So I found myself getting into exercise and fitness, but it wasn't enough. And so I started to wonder, like, how am I going to have this conversation with my son? So then we started going to church and I found myself diving into that. And then I found just like connecting on social media as another platform to get the sadness out in a way. And so that was kind of my intention. Yes, I did want to help people, but selfishly, I needed to just kind of get it out. And so it was just something to put on there. So I didn't think it would go viral at all. And then it kind of went viral over a debate on, what do vaccines do to children? Is this suddenness, unexpectedness due to his vaccine, which it was, and we actually did get a cause of death from SUDS. And it wasn't related to vaccines, but related to a gene mutation in my family's history on my husband's side. Um, and so, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but I think that having the debate on vaccines is important. I think we're all getting awareness and consciousness, and people are talking more on social media, which is great, but it's also sad because there's a time and a place for things. And so having a debate, raising awareness so that parents could get this information. We got some closure through this foundation free of charge to our family. That's why it was supposed to go viral, not over should you or should you not vaccinate your child, which is a very personal thing and you shouldn't really impose your judgment on anybody anyway. That's such a personal decision to make. So long-winded answer to say, no, I did not expect it to go viral. And it amazes me that it was shared to you that many times.
The video that we're discussing, and I'll put it in here as well so that you guys can listen to it and watch it if you have not seen it already. But we're talking about the sudden unexplained death in children. This is something that so many people are not fully aware of. And this happened very close to home with your son. He passed 14 months old at daycare in November of 2021. Can you explain that morning for us? Was it normal or did you notice anything different?
Yeah. So funny you asked that because that's kind of always how I start with. It was such a normal morning. It's so bizarre, that they run away when you go to change their diaper and, you have to kind of wrestle them. And then for some reason, you're just trying to keep them, well, and you're feeding them and they're like, I don't want to eat. And so it was just a very normal, hectic morning. And so we were all really, really shocked when it happened. To explain a little bit about his story, he did have a heart condition. So he had a rhythm issue with his heart and he had a few holes in his heart. and he was very, very sick at 5 weeks old. He had to go on like a bypass machine, but he got better. He kind of was like the miracle baby. He defied the odds. He got better. We left the hospital a month later. Um, got to take him home. We had monthly visits with a cardiologist. Every echo, every EKG, every month was stable. And so we got the call from the daycare. He wasn't breathing. Doctors pretty much did everything they could, and it was just as quick as that. Normal day, and then he was gone. And so, although he did have a condition, we were all shocked. His cardiologist was shocked. And so, when it all happened, the emergency room doctor was kind of like, well, I'm very, very sorry for your loss, but based on the history that we see on the screen, um, like, you're lucky you had him as long as you did. And we were like, I'm not really sure what you're talking about because I have so much, thankfully, I liked recording videos. So I had so much footage of him growing up, and he was very happy, healthy, sweet baby. And so we were like, I don't know what you mean by we're lucky we had him as long as we did. His cardiologist is shocked by this news. He just saw him a few weeks ago. And so he like refused to give us an autopsy. And he was even threatening that, well, if you want an autopsy, then you're not going to be able to hold him because we need to like, I don't know, something about all the things that were in him would make the autopsy null and void. Something like that. And we were like, one, give me my child. And two, you're going to order an autopsy because that's what we want. We're the parents. But they wouldn't. We had to call our cardiologist because we had a very close relationship with him. We met him in the hospital, and he ended up taking over his care, my husband's care, and my other son's care. And he had to like override the emergency room doctor and demand the autopsy and sign off on it. And so it's
Wow.
kind of crazy that I don't even know why would you fight a mom on that? Like for me, I think I'm lost on what am I missing from the medical system that you're refusing that for a parent.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. In one of your videos, you stated he passed in November, still in July the following year. You were still fighting for answers. This is amazing to me because when someone passes, obviously in adulthood, we seem to get answers pretty quickly. I
Right.
think for a child passing, it would be a faster drive for the parents and the families. It's amazing to me that you had to fight for answers on the loss of your child.
Yeah. You see it on TV, right? And then on TV, the family gets their answers right away. So I was pretty shocked when I was like, oh, this is a real life. And sometimes you have to be tough, but you love that person so much that it just pushes you to do whatever you have to do because you're still that person's mom. And you don't, there's an endless motivation there, despite however long it might take, however agencies you have to go through, you're going to do that because that's your child.
Mhm. Um, the sudden unexplained death in childhood is something where people that are listening may realize, like, I've never heard of this, but it's actually the fourth leading cause of death for children ages 1 to 4. I think that that is such a scary statistic because unless it's actually happened within your family or you know someone, I feel like it's not something that's really truly explained. And especially in your situation and with a lot of parents, it's something that's just kind of passed aside, which is really hard, I would assume, in the grieving process to get closure. Was that something you felt as well?
Yeah, I feel like most of us parents think that once you're out of the 12-month range, you're safe. You're out of that SIDS zone, and you pretty much just have to try to do normal things outside of that to keep your kid alive. So, yeah, I feel like more gene testing while your child is alive should be done.
Mhm. Mhm. They're doing a lot with researchers. They're studying metabolic, cardiac, neurogenetics to see if there is a genetic cause that is linked. Was this something that you were aware of when Eli was alive, and something as a parent you look back and think, wow, I should have done this? Because I don't think that education wise for parents, that's something that's really provided either from pediatricians, specialists such as that.
Yeah, so it wasn't provided when he was alive. And I remember when we were pregnant, my husband, as a baby, had some health issues related to his heart. He had heart surgery, I think, when he was less than 2 years old. And so I remember when I was pregnant with my first son, MJ, we were very nervous about that. And we had asked several times, like, did you check everything? Is there any other testing that can be done? And they were like, we don't see anything. We don't see anything. We don't see anything. And when he was born, as far as we were aware, he was a heart healthy baby. And so then I had my surprise pregnancy of sweet baby boy. He came very soon after. And same thing. The difference with Eli is that I was pregnant right in the middle of COVID. And I just feel like something shifted during that time. When you were going to the hospital, you had to wear a mask, really weren't able to have people with you. They were trying to move things virtually. And they also said he was fine. We didn't know he was sick until he was really sick. And so I think that if we were able to get gene testing done while I was pregnant, we would have known that, and maybe we would have been able to prevent that early onset of what he experienced. And, I'll never really know the answer to this, but we do wonder, like, if we had known and prevented certain things and had been more proactive, would he still be here? I mean, who's to say, but we did confirm, after he passed with SUD, that he did have a gene mutation. So, I mean, for his case specifically, I feel like, yeah, maybe if we would have known, there's something we could have done.
There are a lot of different programs, one specifically being created in 2001, information, support, advocacy, research. But one question I think that really comes to play, and we talk about it a lot on this podcast, is mental health. Do you feel that as a parent that has lost a child, do you feel that the medical system really focuses and helps you as mom and dad and the family unit with your mental health and grieving?
I don't think they offer anything at all. Like, not, I can't think of one thing that they offer. They give me 5 days of bereavement to process that my life changed. I will say that I felt that my job was extremely accommodating as much as they could, but within the laws of what we're allowed to do. Um, so that's what we were given. I wasn't given, I think my job offers like standard EAP, you get 3 free counseling sessions, but beyond that, there's nothing that my job specifically or that the government provided us at all.
I think that's a huge topic to discuss in Greece anyway, but especially for parents, because you go through that time period where you are grieving the loss of your child, you have family and friends and support system, but it's that hard angle where everybody else's lives technically go back to how they were and you stay stagnant and stuck. You're trying to still be a mom because you still had another child as well. And you're still being, a wife and a partner, and you're trying to be kind of the head of the household when your emotions are crumbling. What did you find was easiest to work through that mental health and the grieving at the same time?
I think it took me a long time. And so if you're in it, I think give yourself some patience. If for one day all I did was one load of laundry, that's all I can do for that day, and that was okay. I just feel grateful though, because my husband would take my son where he needed to go for me. and my job was remote. So I was able to kind of get work done in isolation and give myself the opportunity to grieve maybe a little bit more than other people get to do. So I feel really, really grateful for that. But it was literally one day at a time, reading books and finding that books would encourage me to find something that helps you. And, working out, started going to the gym or just walking outside and feeling the sun. And I would start going to church because I wanted to be able to give my son answers about his brother and where he was and give him some faith, something to stand on. And I joined some grief group and I wrote a book and, advocated on social media, and I'm still taking things one day at a time.
Mhm. I have a listener that stayed anonymous, and she sent in a question and she wondered if this was relatable. She had this happen in her home, in her family, in her household. She did lose a child. And she said she felt a lot of guilt, and just a bond breaking between her and her child that was still living. She felt really guilty that she still had to move on and love and cook breakfast and do the normal day-to-day things because she felt a part of the home was gone forever. Did you have that experience having, an older child at the time?
I I don't think I felt guilty, but I did feel like I failed because a lot of time you talk to someone and they're like talking about their kids and they'll innocently say like, well, I kept them alive today. And so you're like, well, shit, I didn't. So what did I do wrong? What did I miss? There's something I must have missed. There's something that I shoulda, woulda, coulda, that like lingered on for a while. Um, so I would say that specifically is what I felt for a bit. And it still feels like there's a missing piece with everything that we do. But I do know that God gave me another one because I need him to keep me going. He really helped. He just keeps me going. He makes me do it, but like he brings so much joy and love and laughter and chaos into our home that we're really grateful that he's still around.
Okay. Another anonymous listener had asked the very difficult, hard question. How do you talk to your children about a loss of their sibling, especially if they're young? How do you have those really hard conversations as adults? Sometimes it's a little bit easier, but how do you explain this to your child?
You know, I thought about that a lot, and there's a lot that I went into it. And so, one, I found that my husband had this faith after Eli passed of like, well, we'll definitely see him again. And I was like, wow, but how do you know that? And he's like, because he was a baby and all babies go to heaven. And I was like, but how do you know that that's real? And he was just like, I don't know. I know it. I feel it. And so I was like, oh, MJ needs that. That's the man that I want MJ to be when he's an adult. And so we did start going to church. And so how I did bring it up, it does have a religious background to it. And so when he was really, really little, we just had to have the tough conversation and tell him where he is. He's not here anymore, but he's in heaven. And what does that mean? It means we're not going to physically see him, but it does mean that he's watching from above and he is with Jesus. And one day we will all be together, but that's up to God and whenever that might be. And so that's kind of how we've reiterated it and just more maturely as he's gotten older. And it's a really, really, really hard conversation to have.
Your video has gone viral. Many of your videos have gone viral. And as we know with social media, there's the good and the bad. And that's the reason why we're doing this episode is to truly educate, ask the questions, You and I talked about it before hitting record. There is a right and a wrong time. And I think because you were so vulnerable in your post and explaining what happened to Eli and truly trying to educate people, I think people just see that as an open door and access to everything in your life. And
Right.
I think that's so sad that we have a platform and we have the internet to help other people and truly connect as a community. So I always truly ask you, if you're listening and you see a video or something, please take a step back before you comment. And if it's maybe a topic you're not educated on or you need to be educated on, read the comment section because normally your question is answered in there. So how has that been for you? You're advocating on social media and on platforms, but how has that been? Because I'm sure you're getting all of the same questions in probably not the nicest form.
I'm not gonna lie, I stopped kind of creating content because of it. I mean, I do here and there, but one, my job keeps me busy. Two, my child keeps me busy. He's in baseball and just full of energy and in kindergarten. And so, I'm just living my life, but I would say it was kind of a deterrent. It made me like want to post less or want to help more because I don't want other moms to see the comments and then doubt herself and make her grief or her experience as a mom like worse instead of just saying like, oh, wow, maybe I should get my kid genetic testing because there are children that are suddenly passing away after the age of 1. And I want to see if there's any thing that comes up. And if it doesn't, great. But if it does, well, what does that mean? Is there anything I can do for it? That's kind of the point of the video, not to like shame other moms for choosing to or not to get their children vaccinated. I didn't like the debate either way. Just
It's such a personal thing.
it's up to you. And who are you to judge someone else's decision on what they believe is best for their kid? Shame on you for judging other people. Mind your business. I don't know why we feel so entitled to share our like opinions on other people. It's so rude.
If we have a mother or a father or anyone, maybe a grandparent, aunt, uncle, anyone that's been really affected by this, and maybe they're just in the thick of it, they're just in the start, what would you suggest for those that are listening to find your support system, find that community? Because I feel that so many of the comments that came through on the polls for the podcast, so many that have gone through it, they're like, I just feel like I'm reopening a wound. I just feel like I want to talk to somebody who understands, but I feel like I'm going to burden people by talking about my loss. What would you say to those that are maybe trying to find that support and those that truly understand of where to go?
Um, well, I mean, my immediate family was pretty great to me, and so I think if you're blessed enough to have your mom and your dad and just the community that actually knew that person, be open to grieve with them. Be open to, if you don't know what to say, just offer support. And so when you're really, really in the thick of it, you might not be in the mood to make a meal. So maybe drop off a meal. Like they might not be up for company, but not having the burden of, well, what should I feed my family today when I kind of don't even want to get out of bed is a nice thing to do for someone without even having to say anything. Or like, if you have a living child, like picking that kid up and taking him out for you, or like if they do have a big home, maybe offering like to mow their lawn or take care of their pool and just take those extra like trivial tasks off their plate because they'll just feel like so much better. And so like if you're really in the thick of it, don't be afraid to ask, but also don't be afraid to proactively offer. Because people often say, like, if you need anything at all, but like, if you're like me, you're gonna be like, no, I don't need anything. Like you're not like prideful. Like you just you're not even thinking of asking about those things. Like it's not on the top of your mind. And if you're like me, I'm not going to ask for anything anyway. So like, just do it. Like, just be like, hey, just, I'm dropping off lasagna today. Like, I know you didn't ask. I don't care. I'm just dropping it off. Or like, if you can't make something, hey, I'm ordering Chick-fil-A for the family. Get over yourself. I'm dropping it off. No, I'm not going to be there unless you want me there. Or like, hey, like, I can be there if you want me to be there too. Like, let me know. You want me to DoorDash drop it off or you want some company? So I think both ways, be vulnerable with each other. Don't be afraid to be a human and be kind and just think of one another during that time because it's a tough time for everybody in different ways.
Mhm. And I had a question. It's from someone that's going through this very recently. And she said, I don't know if there's a right or a wrong way to go about this, but she's like, I just don't know how to move anything. His nursery, his room, his toys, where he placed a plate the last time. And she's like, is this something that I'll get better at? Or is there an end goal that I can not have to worry or focus? Because she said, I feel like I'm losing my mind because moving something makes me feel like I'm, releasing every memory. Did you go through that?
Oh my God, I am in his room right now. So that ice cream machine. And I mean, a lot of the stuff is the same. I mean, his crib is over here to the other side of me. Yeah, I mean, don't rush it. Most of the things I still have. Some of the things over time I've turned into quilts. Some things over time I've given to other people that have kids that mean something to me that I want to pass on, that I would have passed on anyway. Um, but I wanted to hold on to everything as long as I could, and I'm still in the process, and little by little, I have actually been releasing and it's been therapeutic, but in the beginning, I feel like the right thing to do is to keep everything right where it was because you just lost something that is so big. I don't know if it would cause more pain, but for me, it would cause more pain to act like he didn't exist. He never existed. Like my life didn't just turn upside down. Like getting rid of the stuff wouldn't stop reminding me that he wasn't there. And so for me, I would say keep it all as long as you want, and you'll know when the time is right. When you're ready to get rid of something, you will release it when you're ready, and don't feel pressured to.
Do
Yeah.
you have a fear? Because I know a lot of moms have this fear after losing a child. And so early, they have a fear of if I want to continue growing my family, they feel this fear of not only could this happen again or replacing the child they lost. What would you say to a mother that's kind of feeling that pressure?
We have not had another. We think about it very, very often, but we do know that we have some gene stuff going on. And so that's a risk within itself. And the world feels like that meme of the dumpster fire. And it kind of always does, but it really kind of does lately. And so we kind of are like, maybe not right now. I would say that that child can never be replaced, whether you decide to have one or not have one. I think it's such a personal decision, but I think no matter what, you're going to grieve that loss. And whether you're like, I can't and I'd never want to again, I think that's okay. And I think if you decide to have one, same thing, you're not going to really get over that other one. It'll always be however many. I mean, right now we have two, one in heaven, one on earth. It'll always be that way. It could be two on earth, one in heaven. I don't know what the future holds, but they'll always be there. And that's what I believe. And I think that I wrote like a short book about it. And it's basically like explaining the loss to a child in a biblical way, about losing a sibling. And it was kind of based on our story because I think it's also important, to do something that you feel is important to leave their legacy behind because they weren't here that long. I think don't be afraid of talking about that child because it gives me like Coco vibes of like, as long as you keep their name alive and their picture on the agenda, like they're with us, baby. They're in spirit. I see the butterflies. Like I know he's here and sometimes I'm still sad, even though I know he's here and I cry, but it makes me feel better, truly believing and knowing that he is here, just in a different way.
Well, I thank you for coming on and sharing your family's story because it does impact everyone. And I think your sassy spiciness for answers is fantastic on social media. I love that you are showing moms that it's okay to advocate for your child. It's okay to advocate for your family and get those answers. I think the medical community it has some work. It really has some work to do. And they need to take some steps, not only in the bedside manner, which really needs some assistance. But I think too is being there for the family, mental health for everyone involved, because everyone grieves different, and putting yourself in a family's shoes. I think that's really important. So I appreciate you coming on, sharing Eli's story and your family's story, and continue the advocacy. I think you're truly, truly an incredibly strong, amazing woman.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing and thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Little Bit of Life podcast. Don't forget to leave your feedback over on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Until then, take care and keep showing up for yourself.